Wife's pain, relief secrets revealed. David's wife, Penny, was a dozen feet ahead of him when he noticed that she had slowed her step. It was just in time. Not far ahead loomed a very steep hill, and they needed to tackle it at top speed, because by the top they would both be pretty exhausted. The bike race was on the road leading to the bay, and for a dozen miles before the last climb it was flat. David and Penny practicing almost every day, rain or shine. Jack Hansen found himself between David and Penny, and the three of them pressed tightly against each other. Fortunately, Jack was always alert. He swerved and didn't notice the collision. For a moment, David thought that Penny had simply slipped on one of her footsteps, although that was extremely rare. But as she rolled out of the lane, David realized there was more to it than that. He stopped too, right behind her. She managed to put one foot down, her face white with pain. Their race was over. There was no way to recover now. It wasn't too important. They weren't going to win anyway. But being in the lead group for the first time would be very satisfying. "What's the matter, honey?" asked David, settling in beside her. The stream of riders to their left made a quiet sound. They were all moving very fast. "I'm sorry. I can't. I just can't." David saw her hand go down to her thigh again, rubbing it. Then she reached down to her groin and began rubbing herself through the colorful, tight clothing. "What's that?" Now David was concerned. "I pulled a muscle or something. It hurts like I'm on fire," she said, her face almost contorted with tears. Once down, he helped her find a place to sit down, and they rested for quite some time. Finally, all the homeless people were long gone. Penny tried to get on her bike for the long ride back to their car, but gasped again as she tried. About an hour later, Jack Hansen returned. "What happened?" "We were riding in the top 10, and I dropped to 20th place. He looked at David, then at Penny, who was still sitting in place. "Penny pulled a muscle or something. Could you go get the truck?" asked David. "Well, it can't be helped. Sure. I'll be back." He headed off to where their cars were parked. It was another hour before Jack returned. They loaded all the stuff, and he helped Penny into the car. She was still in pain. The next day, David drove her to her doctor's appointment. Janine Miller had been their family nurse practitioner for many years. She was a heavy-set woman in her 50s who did not tolerate objection. After her examination, she came out and sat down next to David with a puzzled expression on her face. "I can't find any signs of injury, but she has a stabbing pain in her right thigh and burning in her groin and rectum. I've heard of it, especially in athletes, which you both obviously include, but it's out of my area of expertise. I need to send her to a specialist, okay?" She wrote down the name of the clinic, which was Weiss and Associates. Penny came out, and David helped her into the car and drove her home. When he explained that they would have to drive over 100 miles to see a specialist, she protested that she would feel better if they just gave her some time. "It's a male doctor, honey," said Penny, her face flaming. Penny had been shy, even when they'd first gotten married. It had been a long time before she'd allowed herself intimacy with the lights on. Why, David didn't know exactly. Her figure bordered on spectacular, perhaps partly because of the Catholic school she attended and her very conservative mother. David was fine with that. Penny had been untouched on their wedding night, and he doubted she'd even kissed anyone else but him. "He's just a doctor," David told her. Penny had always been very self-conscious about her body. Even getting her to wear a tight suit hadn't been easy, but eventually she'd gotten used to it. "Still, I wonder if I should just rest," she asked. So they did, but it didn't get better. It got worse. It took over 2 weeks to get an appointment, but finally they came. When Dr. Weiss came out, it was a tall and rather handsome man of about 35. With him was another young man named Dale, whom the doctor introduced as his assistant. David noticed that there was another man working in the room who looked to be just an orderly, also in his 30s. He didn't see any female nurses, not one. He assumed there were some, probably in the back room. They took Penny to the back room. She looked back in his direction, her face flaming. By now she knew that she was going to be analyzed, and in the most intimate of places. Finally, after more than 2 hours, Penny walked back out. Dr. Weiss was right behind her. One look at his wife told David that she was very embarrassed, but he decided that if she was going to be helped, there was no other option. "Hello, I'm Daniel Weiss." The man held out his hand and David shook it. He sat down, holding a clipboard in his hands. "I was thinking that since Penny said it happened while cycling, it's probably just a sprain of the adductor muscle. But I'm afraid it's more than that, since she says she had a tingling sensation and some sort of dull sensation, like her pelvis is falling asleep." David nodded, not sure what the man was talking about. "Your wife has what we call a pinched sciatic nerve. In that area of the body made up of the iliopsoas and the ilium, there is a nerve line called the ramus nerve. This nerve line runs through the lower part of the body, the pelvis. The type of activity you do can create problems affecting the entire lower body, from the sciatic nerve to the femoral triangle, the piriformis. I think the problem is the pudendal nerve, so we need to work on that area." David blinked. He had no idea what the man was talking about. "I think whatever will help her is what we should do," he managed. "Good. Weekly sessions, maybe 10, even 20, or until we see results. I'll set up a schedule." The man David mistook for a nurse filled out some paperwork and held it out for them to sign. "Since the work we have to do is quite intimate, we have to ask you both to sign a release of liability," he told them. Dale knew they would get no help without a signature, so he signed the document without reading it and handed it to Penny, who also signed. He then helped Penny into the car and headed home. All the way home, she was very quiet. Finally, he asked her what they were doing. "They were poking me and groping me, making me move in different positions. It was all kind of awkward. I don't really want to talk about it, honey." "I'm sorry, but we have to fix you," he told her. "I'm just totally embarrassed about the whole thing. You know how shy I am," she said. "Honey, these are doctors. They work with human bodies every day. It's better to just do whatever they want, get it over with, and get you back to health." "I guess so." She looked out the window and fell silent. Over the next month, David drove Penny to the clinic, and when she came out after her 3rd session, he noticed again that the only people he saw were 3 men, not counting a few waiting patients. All of the patients were women. He also noticed that Penny seemed more relaxed now. In her first sessions, she had come out of her treatments depressed and quiet. Now she was acting cheerful, and she was showing signs of improvement too. She mentioned that she wasn't in as much pain anymore. One night, after months of treatment, she turned around and reached for him in bed. It was difficult. She was in so much pain that after several attempts, she stopped trying, not wanting to hurt herself. The fact that Penny reached for him was something completely new. Up until that point, David had always been the initiator of sex. He'd also noticed that she wasn't feeling as comfortable as usual, but he considered it a result of the home exercises she'd been doing. They included what were described as Kegel exercises. Perhaps that was what she was doing? When they made love, Penny didn't seem to feel any discomfort, and he was very pleased with that. A month or so passed, and his wife started to look quite normal, so she said she wanted to try horseback riding again. "Do you think it might be too soon?" he asked her. "No, Dan and Dale said it will be fine. Just don't stress yourself out," she said. "Dan and Dale?" David thought it was odd that she was calling her doctor and his nurse by their first names. But they rode around for a while, and she thought it was fine. Back at her house and all sweaty, Penny went into the shower. She came out with a large bath towel and began to dry herself off. Right in front of him? David had seen her naked many times before, of course, but never once had she come out just like that. She was always either in her bedclothes or with a towel completely wrapped around her. He liked that and stared at her. "What?" asked Penny, raising her eyes and catching his gaze. I've never seen you come out of the shower like that, relaxed. Oh, Penny chuckled. I guess I'm just used to being seen naked. They work on me at the clinic and... She stopped when she saw the look on his face. They see you? With no clothes on? David assumed they used the usual draping and the like, even when they were working on more intimate areas. Penny had already said that some of their work was probably similar to the massages she'd seen David get after long bike rides. They were done by people along the way who did footwork right out in the open air. David liked it, and they helped, but Penny never let men touch her, only women. Well, yes, darling. They have to work like that. It's the only way to get to some of the muscles. She never gave details about the therapy sessions, and he never thought to ask. Curious, David turned on his computer. It usually just stood untouched. He found a search engine and tried typing in a few of the terms doctor Weiss had mentioned. Of course, he didn't know how to pronounce them, but the machine was quite helpful in doing so. That's when he realized what and where the ramus nerve was located. He thought it was in the back of her upper leg, since she tended to lean on it while limping. There were articles, descriptions, diagrams, and drawings, even photographs. Digging deeper and deeper into the sites, he found videos of female therapists working out with men, creating spasms that were supposed to help relieve the aches and burning. If these were legitimate exercises, why was the therapist also naked? This was the real mess, and David knew it. There were even ads from therapists. But if these were real therapists, why were there pictures showing pretty women with very low necklines? The next click left David confused. The patient's picture was of an attractive woman lying on the table on her back, completely nude. Watch video preview, the link read. David clicked on it. The video started with the woman completely undressed and then lying on the table. A man stood next to the table. His face appeared on the screen. David was sure it was the same Dale from the clinic he had taken Penny to. The man began massaging the woman's stomach, then moved down to her groin, working the pelvic muscles on each side, and then moved to her upper thighs. It actually looked like a regular massage, only the woman was blatantly naked. David scrolled through the beginning part of the video several times until he was sure it was the same man named Dale. He turned off the computer and sat there almost in shock. This didn't look like any legitimate therapy he had ever seen or heard of, and if they were just working on a woman with a pain problem, why were her breasts exposed? The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Penny had been shopping, and now she seemed to be moving around without difficulty, which meant something was helping her. Was she just recovering normally? Or was what they had done at the clinic really helping? Could he be wrong? There was no way she'd let anything like that be done to her, even if they claimed it was just a medical procedure. Penny was too shy, too bashful for that to happen. "Hi, honey. Give me a hand, will you?" Penny walked in with an armful of groceries. David got up and went to help her unload. He was beyond furious, but managed to hold his tongue until everything was put away. "We need to have a little talk," he told her when they were done. "Sure, about what?" she asked. "Sit down, please," he said. She sat down, looking worried now. "I thought you were shy," he asked. "What, I used to be, but..." She looked confused. "So tell me, what exactly do these treatments that you do every week involve?" They affect the muscles and stuff. Why?" "What muscles?" he asked. The ones at the bottom, the ones that hold everything together." Penny's face flushed. "I went and looked it up on the internet," he said. "Really?" "Yeah, I found it." "Yeah, then you know, I guess, it's just medicine," Penny protested. "Medical is touching your secret body parts?" asked David. "I don't know," she replied. "David, I don't know the names of all the muscles," protested Penny. "Honey, I was told that I need spasms to help me heal." Her face was crimson now. I guess you've been letting those assholes play with you. I suppose your breasts were bare, too? David was very angry. Honey, they told me it helps to stimulate, relieves cramps. That's what they said, honest. You're calling them names. They asked me for it. They said it helps maintain a comfortable, relaxed atmosphere during the session. Good God, are you that dumb? He asked. You told me to let them do whatever they wanted. I didn't even want to come back after the first time. Penny started to cry. David just sat there looking at her. Honey, you took me there. You said I should let them treat me, and besides, it worked. I'm not in pain anymore, she finally said with a whimper. Why didn't you tell me what was going on? He asked. Honey, it was embarrassing. Yeah, it wasn't a big deal, letting a couple guys fondle your body. David snorted. It wasn't like that. They stroked me lengthwise and across and the top of my legs and thighs, and in the back where it burns. David was confused for a moment. She felt better. There was no more pain or discomfort. They were back to normal sex. She was acting a lot less stiff, and truth be told, he liked it. But still, the thought of some men be damned doing these things to his wife and getting paid for it? Okay, but it's going to end, and it's going to end right now, okay? He told her. Okay, honey. I'm sorry. The next week, David arrived at Weiss's clinic alone. A nurse named Dale looked up as he entered. Hello, sir. Where's your wife today? There was a confused expression on his face. I need to talk to Dr. Weiss and you. Right now, he said. Just a moment, sir. Frowning, he made his way to the back room. No more? Came a voice from the hallway, and Dr. Weiss stepped out from there. What can I do for you? He asked. I found out what you're doing here, accused David. Yeah? Okay. We're trying to help people. Why? An annoying smile appeared on the man's face. And helping people is playing with their bodies? Demanded David. The doctor laughed, and David managed not to hit him. It's just a part of the human body. It's connected to a pudendal nerve that can cause severe pain or even numbness. Our methods may seem unorthodox, but we have an 80% success rate, which is better than the results of surgery, which is much more invasive. I don't think caressing my wife is an accepted medical procedure, shouted David. Well, we don't call it that. We call it inducing physical spasms. Sure, it gives pleasure to the client, but it's natural and unavoidable, sir. I should turn you into the police, hissed David. That's been tried before, sir. Feel free to do so if you like. Of course, we have signed consent forms from both you and your wife. Dr. Weiss smiled. Feeling helpless, David turned to leave. He was well aware that if he did what he wanted to do, the likelihood of him ending up in jail was very high. Sir? Dr. Weiss called out to him. What? It is likely that your lady may have some problems in the future. Please feel free to call us if that happens. We can really help. The man smiled broadly. Back at home, David left it at that. Penny was doing well, and one of the benefits was that she was much more relaxed in the bedroom. The weekly nudity, the loving touches, seemed to take the edge off her usual extreme shyness. David sat her down and made her tell him exactly what they had done. He barely managed to keep his tongue behind his teeth when she told him. They told me that this was the only way they could get to certain areas, honey, she said, catching the look on his face. And it hurts a lot, she added. David couldn't help himself and started laughing. Penny spent half the day getting mad at him about it. One night when they were having dinner in public, he noticed that there was no bra under the beautiful dress she wore. That in itself was a complete surprise. Penny always wore a bra, even when it was just the two of them in the house. So be it, he didn't mind it. Besides, she was healthy and even more fun. He had already stopped getting upset and was just going with the flow. David rode in the heavy traffic, Penny just ahead. They had finished 5th and 6th last year and were planning on winning this year. They rode with the lead group, approaching a section where the last few hundred yards needed to be ridden on pegs. He saw her bike shudder and then slow down. He shifted to the left and missed her back wheel as she came to a stop. Not again, he thought, coming back toward her. Penny was standing on her left leg, holding the bike upright, her face contorted in pain. "Okay, honey." He helped her to the grass and sat her down. "Doctor, Weiss told me that injuries like this tend to come back and require further treatment," she said. "Well, at least now I know what to do. I'll deal with it myself." He grinned. Penny looked up at him and a smile appeared on her face. "Oh my God," she grinned. They both started laughing. Just then, David's buddy Jack Hansen came back in and stopped. "What's so funny?" he asked. "Nothing, nothing at all," they both said in unison. "The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you."